WCNC Charlotte, this is Flashpoint.
Thanks for joining us here on Flashpoint. I'm Ben Thompson. This morning, an exclusive interview with the mayor of Charlotte, Vi Lyles. In just the past few months, city leadership coming under extreme scrutiny for its handling of ongoing issues with Charlotte's transportation agency. Between bus driver shortages, minor derailments, and big plans for transit growth, CATS has struggled to get its footing. Now the mayor says the agency is looking to begin a new chapter. Joining us now is Charlotte Mayor Vi Lyles. Mayor, thanks for coming back on Flashpoint. Nice to have you.
Good to be here, Ben.
All right, so let's talk about CATS first. I feel like that's sort of the big sort of gorilla in the room at this point. There's been a slow drip of bad news from CATS over the last few months. The interim CEO even suggested a while back there might be more issues that would likely come to light. As the leader of our city, do you think you can tell taxpayers at this point that we have now turned a corner, that the slow drips of bad news from CATS at this point have stopped?
Thanks for asking that question, because I think transit is one of the major issues for us in our community, because we provide services to people to get to work. And you know what that means. They can pay their rents. They can get to around the city and, be able to shop and all of that. So it's really important. And what I would say is that we are working through a system of change, and we are working in one direction, which is one to ensure that we have maintenance on our equipment, to ensure that our facilities are safe for people to be able to ride on. So I believe that we are headed in the right direction. We continue to focus on how do we build the best system for our people, but also how do we maintain that system so that it's something that's a foundation for us to grow in our mobility efforts.
You feel safe riding the Blue Line right now?
That's kind of a loaded question, Ben. I would feel very safe because people are riding it every day. When we look at what NCDOT sent as information for us to change and what we've done, we've immediately addressed those issues. So I would say that the question really is, are we maintaining the system for safe operations? Yes, we are. There's risk if I get in my car, much less on a bus or a rail line. But what I would say is that we are moving in the direction to take the corrections immediately, working on those initiatives that we have to do to ensure that kind of safety statement that we have to have.
Last week during a city council meeting, you said that the MTC commission, which you also had, did not vote on an outside investigation from CATS, despite the commission voting to do so. I just want to clear up, because I think there was some confusion out there. Do you want to see an outside independent investigation, or do you think this can be a government-run investigation?
I think that I want to first clarify that we did say that we wanted to have an outside investigation. And my intent was to say, and perhaps not very clearly, and that's sometimes what happens when you're mayor, I meant to say that when the MTC requests that, it had to go through the Charlotte City Council. Ed Driggs has been phenomenally engaged in this effort to make sure that we have the right questions asked, we get the answers that the MTC has requested. And so I believe that what I hope that we would see is that we would have first the authorizing agencies that work with us. That's NCDOT's safety office, as well as the Federal Transportation Administration. When a plane crashes, the Federal Transportation Administration is there. When we have an issue on our buses, they will be there as well.
Has this whole sort of scenario, has it changed your view on how the city should go about its $13 billion transit plan going into the future?
It certainly has given me pause to think about how do we ensure what we have works. I've always been a person in government when I worked here, as well as being mayor now, is that we have to first make sure that the services that we provide are adequately addressed and funded, and that they are delivering the services that our residents want. So what I would say to you is, yes, there's a pause here. But it's a pause that I believe once we do the investment, we should continue. There's no way in the world that we can have a bus system that just serves the amount of people that we're serving now. When we grow the size of Greensboro in the next 5 to 10 years, our residents are going to increase, and we have to plan ahead for what we're doing. There's a pause in that planning right now. And I think you've seen it. We've delayed the idea that we would do the search for the CEO. We are putting a pause, but continuing to look at our mobility plan and what's required of that. So we can't, I like to say that we have to do both. And we have to make sure first our investment in what we have is being maintained, but we also have to plan for the future. That's why we have a planning division as well as a maintenance division.
To that point, I want to bear down on that a little bit more. Given the fact that originally you all were hoping to ask the General Assembly for that 1-cent sales tax because they have to sign off on it, as you know, and I think you all have indicated that that's not likely going to happen this year, which was the plan. So what is the fair timeline you see going forward for this mobility project now?
I think the timeline is when we get it right, when we have agreement among our region, when we finish the Connect Beyond study and work, when we develop a governance system that actually works, it's not so convoluted, that we have people that are unionized with a contractor administering what we provide funding for. I believe that we have some opportunities here to adjust to what a system should look like in the long run.
Given the fact that Republicans now have a supermajority in both the State House and Senate, what concessions do you think the city will be willing to make to get this thing passed? I mean, even before they had the supermajority, the House Speaker indicated that he wasn't on board with the plan. What does compromise look like in your mind?
You know, I think compromise isn't about what's in my mind. It's actually about how the region is going to develop and work. So compromise to me is not the word. What I see is collaboration. Collaboration is the word that we need so that every mayor in our surrounding communities, whether it be from Concord or Kannapolis or Cramerton, all of those have to come in and say, we buy into this for the people that live in our region.
Speaking of that supermajority, I'm going to ask you a slightly off-topic conversation, but I want to get your sense because it's really incensed a lot of Democrats. Tricia Cotham switched parties. You know the family well, I assume. What was just your initial reaction as a Democrat?
Well, as a Democrat, of course, it's pretty tough to lose the ability to look at the commitments that were made during an election and to think that those might be in question. So I think that that's still a question. I believe that it must have been very difficult for Tricia Cotham to make that decision. So I think it's going to be what happens next. When these votes come up that she has said to her community that supported her, that she was going to take. I think that's going to be when we really see whether or not there's been a major impact.
Our conversation with the mayor continues. Coming up, why she's not committing yet to running for mayor in the upcoming election.